growth point leaf is looking absolutely, she's looking cute there. Well, hello and welcome to Always the Wild Ones. My name is Vanessa Lee, and on this channel I like to talk about all things around self-care, stemming from healthy lifestyle, and then of course my plants being my main source of mental health care. So without further ado, let's get straight into this video because I have some gorgeous little Philodendron Gloriosum babies to show you. First I'm going to go and grab the plants, and yeah, let's get into this video. So this is where my Philodendron Gloriosum is currently living. I thought I'd just show you first before dragging it over. And yeah, it's quite low lighting. I've actually moved this plant several times just trying to get the correct lighting, but she's looking cute there. I'm really loving her on this chest, but let me bring her over into the kitchen. So as you can see, the plant is actually in quite a low light. Well, in my eye, when I'm looking at that area, that says low light to me. The plant seems to be very, very happy there. I don't know what's going on. I did have it in an area that was much higher in light, and I did notice that the leaves just didn't look particularly happy. But its latest leaf is looking absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, I've just noticed that there's more white in the veination, which is not what I was expecting actually. I've had this plant for 2.5 years. I know, quite a long time. I grew this plant actually from a tiny little seedling. When I first bought the plant, it was so little and so delicate. I'll put a photo up so that you can have a look at that. I did keep it under a dome, so in high humidity for quite a long time. And that is something actually that I've noticed with all of my philodendrons. They would definitely prefer higher humidity. I think 60% and above, that would be chef's kiss. In my home today, we are looking at, it's 31 centigrade inside my home, and the humidity is 39% today, which is so low. I think the reason why my Gloriosum is doing okay in this humidity is because I did get it as a seedling, so therefore it has acclimatized and it's just used to this environment. So let's start off with some really basic stuff before I show you the little babies. Watering, you don't want to overwater this plant, it will not appreciate it. I have mine in pon, and I find this a really good way of kind of countering that problem of overwatering. Although I am by nature an underwaterer, I'm quite a lazy plant parent, but I do like having my plants in semi-hydroponic and also in like a self-watering situation. So as you can see, like there's lacquer balls at the bottom and then the pon is all held above. So this vessel is currently working as a self-watering pot. I just make sure that there's a nice, actually I watered it today, so you can see that there's water there in the bottom, but just where the lacquer balls are, and that will see it through for a good 10 days. I really try not to water it just on a whim. I try and kind of look at the plant and see how it's reacting. I tried taking a photograph of my fuzzy petiole, my Philodendron fuzzy petiole earlier today, was looking so limp. And I watered the plant, I went out for the day and came back and it's all perky and happy again. So yeah, you kind of get a similar reaction to this plant. Obviously you don't really want to wait until it gets to that stage, especially not every time. If it's in soil, when I had my plant in soil, I would literally go by the weight of the plant and how heavy it feels. And I can still do that method with the pon. I can still tell whether the pon is retaining water, even if there isn't anything here in the reservoir. I can still tell you know, when it's bone dry, it will just be as light as a feather. So don't overwater your Philodendron Gloriosum. I would say keep the light, medium light. It is a crawling plant, but as you can see, it's crawling along there in the pot. So this plant would have been living along the floor, forest floor, you know, with a lot of dappled lighting, and in an ideal world, that is what I would want to be giving this plant, is dappled lighting with high humidity. Yeah. Okay, the next thing is, maybe I should show you the babies, because we've covered the humidity, we've done water. Let's move on to the propagations. So I firstly want to just show you my little babies first. I actually have 4 there in the pot, and I'll probably have to do some B-roll just so that you can actually see the little individual ones. Some sprouted quite quickly and then others took a little longer. Let me show you where I actually cut the plant. So if you are planning on propagating your plant, you want to look out for an axillary bud, a growth point. I can see already that there's an active growth point here, and that will only be activated once I've cut the plant. So I can cut the plant here, and its root system for this growth point is actually right here. Oh no, sorry, the leaves are just everywhere. But you can I'll do a little pointy thing so that you can kind of see. But yeah, you can see that these are the roots. Actually, you can see it better here. These are the roots for this part of the plant, and there's its growth point right there. So I could cut the plant here, because this part of the plant has a continual stem. So if I were to cut the plant here, I could pop this part up, this one leaf, and its new leaf on its own, and then a brand new shoot will come out of here, so that this part of the plant can continue. Or you can like look further down and see if there's any other axillary points. Where the roots are, there should be an active growth point just in front of it. Sometimes it will be hiding underneath, or it can be hiding. But with this particular plant, I probably wouldn't take the chance. I would just cut it here, allow this new growth point to grow, and then pot this leaf with its new leaf that's coming on its own. Oh, another very important part of propagating your Philodendron Gloriosum. You can't just go in there and cut the plant in one go. It's quite a process. It's best to notch the plant, and notching is where you'll cut into the plant maybe a third of the way, come back a week later, just let that kind of harden off, come back a week later, do another little slice, and then do the complete slice within those 3 weeks. Just allowing the plant in between the cuts to callus over. And yeah, once you've done that, you can then put your propagation into what you want to propagate it in. Philodendrons are generally very easy to propagate. You can literally just cut the plant, make sure that it's got its growth point and its root system, or a point where the root system will grow from. And you can just put that in water and it's not a problem. I personally have never tried doing the water method with the Gloriosum, and the reason is because it's a crawling plant, yeah, you're going to have to try and keep the stem of the plant above whatever substrate it is, whether it's water, whether it's pond like this. As you can see, it's not buried under the pond, it's on top of the pond, and it needs to be on top of the pond. That's very important, otherwise the stem can literally just start rotting and then you've lost your plant. So with repotting, most definitely pot it so that it's crawling above the soil. And again, with your propagations, as you can see with my little propagations, they're all above the soil. And it's very hard to do that with water. Pon, I'm very successful with propagating in pon, and I feel the most comfortable and I get the best success with my kind of watering habits and all those things. I have tried sphagnum moss, and sphagnum moss also works very well. Obviously, you don't bury the stem, you just float it on top. And yeah, I think besides that, the other thing that I do with my propagations is to keep them in 100% humidity. So I have a clear storage box, which I bought from IKEA. And I just put all my propagations in there. I make sure that they're nicely watered, and I just slap the lid on. And they can literally be in there without you having to hover around them and take care of them for several months and not need extra watering, because obviously it's at 100%. At the moment, I am trying to acclimatise some of the plants in my propagation bin, so I do have the lid over just slightly. And when I put in my humidity reader, it will generally be, I don't know, what are we saying? Maybe 70%. And as long as it's over 60% and above is perfect for all the philodendrons. Anything lower, you're going to get unhappier leaves like this one. Unfortunately, I can't put humidifiers in my home. My floors would just become way too slippery, but that's what the plant would really appreciate, and it would look a lot bigger and more prettier for sure. But she's gorgeous. I love my baby. So yeah, these guys are in for high humidity, and it would be interesting, or at least 70. So it would be interesting to see whether the plant will grow a little faster, having all of those optimum special effects that it needs, like having like optimal environment. And these probably are getting a little too much light, so I might just try and slip it or put them in the corner a bit more. But besides that, they've been very, very easy to take care of, but not the fastest propagations. I've had other philodendrons where they're rooted and ready to be potted within 2 weeks, especially when the summer heat is on, whereas these guys took quite a long time to propagate. But I think it's well worth it, because once they start creeping, and you know, this in the corner or on a shelf, or you know, and the fact that the leaves all point forward, this is something that I really, really love about this plant, and why I've hung on to it. Even though, you know, she gets very pesty. Should we talk about pests? Let's talk about pests. So the plant itself, like a lot of philodendrons, not so much the hanging philodendrons, but certainly the crawling and the climbers get extra floral nectarine, and let me show you what that is. So I don't know if you can see, like there's like a sticky sap, and it's all over the stem as well. And sometimes you can get it on the back of the leaves, and when that happens and the light shines directly onto the leaf, you'll get like these fine, tiny little burn marks. So I do try and wash these leaves down as much as I can. I'm probably showering this plant maybe once a month, especially in the summer, and I'm really conscious of the back of the leaf mostly. That's where I really want to really clean it. I mean, look at the back of this one. You can really see the extra floral nectarine. You see that? It's quite sticky looking. There, massive blob there. You want to try and keep the leaves nice and clean. With them being velvet, that can be quite difficult. I tend to use a little brush which I didn't bring with me, but it's like a painter's brush, and I'll just give the plant a little bit of a dust down. I do also like to take it into the shower and just, especially on the back of the leaves, try and get all that sticky extra floral nectarine off of the leaves. And I also don't want to encourage ants into my home. When the ants pick up that there's extra floral nectarine in your home, they will come a-running. So yeah, try and keep the plant as clean as you can. But I do think that's a humidity thing. I don't think you would actually have these issues if the humidity is much higher, because I do not see that on my babies. But this guy, that happens. The humidity has been absolutely nuts recently. We've had this crazy heat wave. So this baby, it's doing really well, considering, you know. All the windows closed today, so this plant is going to start melting pretty soon. My plant tends to get spider mite, and you can tell when it has spider mite. In fact, I think it might even have spider mite right now, which is great that it lives on its own over there. So let me show you this leaf. Can you see that it kind of looks a bit dusty? And we've got all that kind of weird, like something's been sucking the life out of the leaf. That for me is a clear indication of spider mite, this kind of dusty look. I probably will go and chuck this into the shower and just cool the thing down anyway. But yeah, I'm really pleased that this one lives on its own. And with a lot of my philodendrons, I tend to place them in areas where they're on their own, because they are, out of all of my plants, the most pesty. They keep you on your toes. They're fast growers, which is fantastic. But let me just warn you, she is a beautiful plant. This is a very fast growing plant, but you will constantly be having to repot the plant. And if you're not willing to have a container that's like super long, then you're going to end up chopping your plant, which is why a plant that's 2.5 years old looks like this, because I don't want it to be much bigger than this. I honestly don't have the space for like a really super long Gloriosum. Just like banging it over there. Yeah, so there's that. But with all of the pest issues and the constant repotting, with all of the, you know, the little moans and complaints that this plant might give me, I still really love it. And I think also growing it from such a tiny little plant is another reason why I've hung on to this plant, and why it's still one of my favourite philodendrons in my home. Let me put this baby down, and actually I'm just going to move you guys over there just in case. Yeah, I hope that you enjoyed the video, and let me know if there's anything that I skipped over. Maybe there's something that you would like to know a little bit more about. Do leave me a comment in the comments down below. Give me a thumbs up, because that really does help this channel greatly with suggesting my video to someone that's similar to you. That's how the algorithm works. And yeah, we're a tiny little channel, but we are growing, and it's nice to have more voices to listen to and to chat to. I do always get back to you guys in the comment. I do know that actually 58% of people that are returning have not hit the subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it if you hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you a penny. You are returning, and I do put a lot of effort into my videos. Yeah, so hit the subscribe button on your way out and share it with your friends and family. Please do. I'd really appreciate that as well. The more the merrier, basically. I'm going to go now. I hope I gave you enough information on the Philodendron Gloriosum. If there's anything that I may have missed out, just leave that in the comments down below and I will get back to you. Okay, until next time, have a fabulous week. Bye.